Hi again. The next theory you're going to be looking at is feminism. Once more, use the same Cornell method as you've done previously to get notes on this theory. You will all most likely have heard of feminism, yet most people's everyday understanding of feminism and who feminists are is very much based on stereotypes. In sociology, we'll look much closer at feminist theory and we'll see how some feminists will often disagree with each other and how they will view what's happening in society. Feminism is another conflict theory, like Marxism. The conflict that feminists see within society is between men and women. This does not mean that they are at war with each other, just that there is a conflict of interest in society. Men and women have very different experiences, and this is shaped by their gender. The ideology, so the system of ideas that feminists talk about, is patriarchy. So patriarchy simply means male-dominated society. All feminists believe that society is patriarchal or male-dominated, but not all feminists think that this is down to men forcing control over women. Some will see it as due to historical expectations, whereas others see it as down to choice. We'll look at different branches of feminism, and these branches are different groups of feminists who all have different ideas to one another and explain the reasons for gender inequality in different ways. The first branch I will talk about is liberal feminism. Liberal feminists believe that we live in a patriarchal society, so men dominate, but this is down to historical expectations and society's expectations. Liberal feminists want equality between men and women and acknowledge that there has been some improvement, but there's still some way to go. One way that we can see changes that have happened in society is through legislation or laws. Sex discrimination is now illegal, and this is outlined in laws such as the Equality Act and the Equal Pay Act. Liberal feminists don't blame men for patriarchy. They believe that this is just deeply embedded in society and is therefore unquestioned. One study which looks at how boys and girls learn this inequality is by Anne Oakley. She said that the family will often socialise boys and girls into expected masculine or feminine behaviour. She does not believe that this is necessarily intentional, but it is often the case. We can take the example of children's toys. So a 4-year-old girl is more likely to get a toy like a doll or a toy Hoover as a gift, whereas a boy is more likely to get a toolkit or a football. Oakley believes that this socialises girls into the idea that they will become mothers and look after the household, whereas boys are socialised into more physical tasks, encouraging confidence and competition. Oakley believes that gender role socialisation in the family can help to explain why men and women are more likely to have different jobs in adulthood. For example, a man is more as a business manager and a woman as a nurse. When we look at Oakley in greater detail, we will explore her 4 central concepts of canalisation, manipulation, verb appellations and domestic activities. We break this down further so we can see exactly how boys and girls are socialised into society's expectations for gender roles. The second branch we'll cover is radical feminism. This is often the stereotypical sort of feminist, the image that is often portrayed in wider society. The radical feminists believe that society is patriarchal, so male-dominated, because men oppress women. Men force their power over women and make sure they stay subordinate, that they know their place in society and that their place is below men. One radical feminist we will study is Rich. She believes that women are socialised into, or taught, something called compulsory heterosexuality. Rich believes that women aren't naturally attracted to men, necessarily. She believes that society makes women think they are, so that they are made available to men, and that they then can stay subordinate. Another branch of feminism is Marxist feminism. These are first and foremost feminists, but they also agree with Marxist ideas and apply them to the experiences of women. Marxist feminists believe that women are victims of two ideologies: patriarchy, so male dominance, and also capitalism, so the idea that society is driven by profit. One of the key areas that they believe these ideologies limit women is the family. Marxist feminists believe that women are expected to look after the household and essentially work for free through childcare and housework so that the man can go out to work and help contribute to capitalism. Studies have also suggested that men will come home from a stressful time at work and take out their frustrations on their wife, so they are refreshed when they return to work the next day, and therefore won't get frustrated when in the workplace and fight out against capitalism. Marxist feminists also look at women's experience in the workplace. They believe that women make up a reserve army of labour. This is the idea that women are likely to be used as a backup workforce, who are easily hired when more workers are needed to help the economy, but then they are all easily fired when they are no longer needed. Zero-hours contracts are a good example of this. Women are more likely to be employed on a zero-hours contract, which means that the employer doesn't have to give them a minimum number of hours. They can just get them into work when they need to have a bigger workforce. Black feminism is one of the more recent branches of feminism. Black feminists focus on the experiences of women from ethnic minorities. They believe that most feminist research is ethnocentric, which means that it focuses on one particular culture. This is the culture of women from the white majority. Black feminists argue that a separate branch that looks at the experiences of women from ethnic minorities is needed as they experience triple systems theory. This means that they believe that women from ethnic minorities are triply disadvantaged. First of all, because of their gender. Second of all, because of the colour of their skin. And thirdly, because they are more likely to be from a poorer background. Black feminists argue that white feminists can't talk about this extent of equality as they haven't experienced it for themselves. The final branch we will consider is post-feminism. Post-feminists have a lot in common with postmodernists, which we'll cover in the next and the final video. Post-feminists look at the experiences of women today and acknowledge how things have changed for women in recent years, mostly due to technology improving. One way we can look at this is the contraceptive pill. Women can now control when they have children or whether they have children at all, so they are able to focus on their careers if they wish. Post-feminists don't think that women are disadvantaged because society makes it that way. They believe that women are disadvantaged because of the choices they make. For example, some women are more likely to work part-time and have lower paid jobs because they have chosen to have children and they have been given the choice to work part-time and look after their child too. As we look at different branches of feminism, we can use each of the different branches to critique each other. They are all talking about the central theme of gender inequality, but they all have very different explanations for why this is the case. So often, although they're all coming from the same theory, we can criticise the radical feminists, for example, with liberal feminists, because liberal feminists would say that we are starting to see some change and society's expectations are changing over time. Whereas radical feminists would argue that men are still forcing control over women and this can be done within the family and in wider society, and it's there to make sure that they are kept in their place. So within feminism, we will look at 5 different branches, which are groups of feminists who have very different ways of explaining gender inequality in society. We will learn studies and concepts which are unique to each one, and we'll use them to criticise one another. Please can you use 3 different coloured highlighters this time. Use one colour to highlight each of the branches of feminism, another for the studies, so names of feminists, and the final colour for concepts, so those specialist words with sociological meaning. You just have one more theory to do after this. The next one you will study will be postmodernism.